Political analysts Herman Manyora, Ambrose Sweda and Barack Muluka decode for us the campaign strategies of the two main camps in the 2017 general election after an eventful political week that saw both President Uhuru Kenyatta and NASA flag bearer Raila Odinga endorsed by their respective parties to go for the presidency in the August 8th polls. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us tonight. I see here Jomo Gigi in Mukurweini in #242 saying 2017 polls will bring a paradigm shift in our political landscape, which confirms that the powers vested on Wanjiku counts and cannot be ignored. Free advice, once elected, work, and work, according to Wanjiku's manual and mandate, period. Talk to us. The hashtag is GamePlan2017 on Twitter. You can also text us on 22422. Let's begin first with what we saw yesterday, the endorsement of Uhuru Kenyatta at the Jubilee Party, by the Jubilee Party at the Bomas of Kenya. But before that, we saw Kenyatta shuffling through 5 different NDCs from different parties. What do you make of this? Although it was Kenyatta only, by the way.
Yes.
But does this say he has realized now that he needs other parties as well?
No, he's always worked with all these other parties. What originally happened was that we had hundreds of parties. As Jubilee, the president, hundreds of parties and 2 main parties, the TNA and the URP. The deputy president with his own party and the president with his own party. There was need moving forward for these 2, first of all, to come together. And several others, Newford Kenya, Tip, all this.
To form one united party, isn't it?
The first stage was to say, all of us who are willing, let us form one big party towards uniting Kenya as we move to the future. So that successfully took place. Then there are others that are friendly. There are others that are newly formed, that are leaning towards the president, but they are standing independent. So this, at the end, the president saw that let us now see, as we are moving towards the last leg, to come together. So he was going so that they endorse him, they pass the resolution, they endorse him.
But what is the difference?
Yes.
What is the difference? I mean, the Jubilee Party was to bring all parties under the Jubilee Party. The issue was, the point for the government and the president was to have one united party, for one united Kenya.
Yes.
So,
yes, which happened. We united URP, TNA, and several others, Newford Kenya, Tip. Those were all united under Jubilee Party, forming one huge, you can see it is one huge party. Huge one. Then there are others like Maendeleo Chap and the others. So these are leaning towards the president. And we said, let us all again join together as a family and move on, move forward.
First of all, whether there are not hundreds of parties. In fact, the whole country doesn't even have 60. But that's not the point. The point is, if you ask me, and I think many other Kenyans, it was comical. The president moving from one place to another and seeking endorsement. And your argument about parties coming together flies in the face of what really a serious person would see in terms of, look here, they gave very good reasons for coming together. If those reasons were to hold today, there will be no reason for another party on board. You get it? It's just that they have realized it was a big mistake. Many of us wondered, what was this thinking behind creating Jubilee? And we asked the questions. We said maybe they were seeing things we were not seeing. Now we've been vindicated. There was nothing. It was wrong from the word go. And people now who folded their parties must be wondering what is happening. Hold on. You get it?
I don't know.
You get it?
Let me ask you.
Yes.
Let me tell you. In Jubilee and under President Uhuru, every vote counts. No vote is taken for granted. Even if we say here, you cough, we will come and look for you and say, my brother, this one, every vote counts. That's why you see, for you, it is comical. For us, even now, we would ask the president, go and persuade our brother so that we get his vote. Because that is what assures us of victory.
I think you are missing the point. The point is this, right?
Just let me finish.
Whether the point, you're also missing the point. The point is this. You ask people to fold their parties. You give very good reason for that. And then at some point later, when they have done that, you now bring other parties on board. What does that tell them? I'm saying, Lusaka, for example, in Bungoma, stood a good chance if he was with the Newford Kenya. Now you tell him to take Jubilee to Bungoma. And the Luhyas are saying, Chupili Tawe. You are putting him in problems for nothing. Then he sees you inviting another party. Ask this guy. No. You see, this thing.
Let me look at first way now, Martin. Yes, for you respond.
Yeah, first, I think there's nothing comical about the president moving from one camp to the other, soliciting support. But then, you know, both Herman Manyora and Ambrose Weda are masters of hyperbole. That is why he talks about hundreds of parties, when we know that as of this morning there were only 66 IEBC approved parties. But sometimes I have to sympathize with the people who are made to talk about things that they don't even understand. For example, Ambrose Weda has not been in the forums where these decisions have been made. That when they were coming together, the 14 parties that he calls hundreds, they went through the organs and forums of the various parties. That this time round, it's just the president and his deputy who, in my reading of the situation, have decided that this is what we are going to do. There is a sense in which one runs away even from the philosophy that informs the formation, because that philosophy of reaching out to others after we dissolved our parties, we need to come back to the Jubilee Party and to get into its various forums and instruments, and then have them endorsing and saying, okay, Mr. President, now go out to talk to other people. But it is, on the whole, a wise move, because, as he correctly says, they have to collect every voter.
So you think it's still going to add votes?
Yes, and mark this, they are going to talk to PNU. They have been fighting PNU for quite some time. They are going to talk to them. They are going to tell them, let us work together.
Okay, we saw again NASA on Friday using the rising cost of living in the campaign. First, of course, it's a big problem right now in Kenya. The president talked about it yesterday, saying Parliament has been called now to intervene. How much of this, or how much of it do you think is going to be, I mean, a campaign issue in 2017 ahead of the 2017 election? Manyora.
Well, you see, you sometimes step and touch raw nerves when you talk about rent, for example, because then people remember 2007, and to this day people say there are some landlords, if you wish to call them, in Kibera, whose houses were taken over up to this day. And when you talk about cost of living, it is indeed true that this is a very important thing. The president today has said that, I mean yesterday, that Parliament will discuss ways of dealing with the cost of living, the cost of unga, maybe a supplementary budget. I laugh because you don't need a supplementary budget to rein in these businessmen who are holding sugar and flour and maize flour. What when a feature unga? Then the price is
you think that is
you don't need to reconvene budget Parliament for that. But the question you asked, will this really matter? Yes, indeed it will matter. But like I asked Jubilee not to fund development and instead go for politics if they want to win. I must also caution NASA. These things, they are becoming like a song, corruption. Go into the politics, go on the ground, go to Busia and sort out the Otroma, who is this guy? Ojamong issue. Tell Ojamong to go slow on Otroma because we will lose our votes. you see, go to Korea land and sort out one or two things. And, you know, this is the politics. This is what will win elections. Much as the UNGA issue is important and corruption is important, if NASA keeps on singing that song, they will not gain, just as Jubilee will not gain if they continue telling us about electricity, Sijui Barbaragani, and launching.
How will they gain it? I mean, you're saying UNGA is not going to be a campaign issue as such. That's what you're saying.
It is important. I'm saying it is important. But you see, it is like it's something people have heard before.
Many times.
It is important.
UNGA is a campaign issue. Unga has always been a campaign issue. It's been very sensitive. In fact, when you talk about basic needs, you start with unga, you come to shelter. If you haven't addressed that, you haven't addressed anything. And things like unga have brought down governments, even when it is not election time. So it is an issue. But it depends on whether NASA have got the capacity to package this and to position it as a campaign issue so that it begins overriding other things. I think NASA have been losing the propaganda war all the time. Jubilee has made very many blunders from corruption, from making claims that are completely invalid, like they have built 10,000 kilometers of road, meaning a road from here up to the Atlantic coast and back again. And NASA are not able to capitalize on such things. I agree with Mwalimu Manyora that they must come down to earth. They must be able to galvanize their followers to believe in them. They must generate some kind of excitement, and which I haven't felt this far.
And Manyora is already dismissing the move that you're saying, I mean, handling this through parliament will not work. You're saying you're laughing at it.
You see why I'm saying this, for example, as a Kenyan who knows what's going on, I know there is hoarding, there is hiding of commodities, so that you can then make money.
Where have they been hidden?
I'm not the Inspector of General Police. I'm not.
But it's a fair question, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Because he says
then why don't they take me tomorrow? Why don't we start tomorrow with them? They come and get me, and we begin looking where the go-downs in which these things are hidden, and then I show them. But to answer your question before he comes in, what I'm saying, unga is important.
Yes.
But supposing the president tomorrow, when Parliament reconvenes, suppose he tells his troops in Parliament, give me a master stroke, in which unga comes down, he can subsidize even the millers. It has happened in other countries. The president can subsidize even the millers themselves. You get it? The American government was able to bail out private enterprises using billions of US dollars.
Because it has the reserves.
Yeah. So,
but do we have...
If the president were to do that, I'm arguing then that thing disappears into thin air. And I'm saying the politics will be... I'm saying the politics would have been, Jubilee goes to Kericho and the Bomet to find out what's going on. How can we maximize minimize the damage from Isaac Ruto? I said ODM or NASA goes to Busia and find out this Ojamong Otoma issue. How do we sort it out so that we don't lose the vote? Because if you leave that the way it is, then Jubilee can go into Busia and benefit. That's what I mean. That's the politics I'm talking about.
I think
these other things
thank God that Jubilee or NASA will not be listening to you on serious strategy. Because you don't win by cheating here and there, going here. Unga will be and still remains a critical issue. You understand? For me who grew up and eats ugali, when it is 150, 130, is a very critical issue. And we are telling the president it has to be addressed. And to be addressed quickly. The problem is not about hoarding. The problem is that the country produced less due to drought. The same drought affected Uganda, where we get some extra, and then also Tanzania, they have closed, so their maize is also not coming. Therefore, in terms of economics, we have what is called deficit vis-a-vis consumption. So you do not expect us, a country that respects the rule of law, to ask the police to go with rungu searching under people's beds to check whether they are hoarding. It is a question of supply and demand, so that we import maize and then we subsidize. To do that, allow me just to finish. To do that, the president cannot just walk into Treasury and tell Rotich, where is the money like I mean? It has to be through Parliament. It has to be through appropriation. It has to be through legislation. That is what the president has proposed, and it's going to be done because it has to be done urgently. We are saying we need ugali of 80 shillings. Myself, I need it because I love ugali. Please allow me to finish.
You know, you are missing the point. Just a bit.
Let me finish.
Okay. You are missing the point.
Why can't you allow me to finish?
Please go ahead, but you are missing the point by a huge margin.
So I am saying that it will be a critical issue, and that is why it is being addressed now. If it is not addressed, it will be a Waterloo for us, and we will not allow ourselves to reach there. We are going to deal with it effectively.
What I said, just to correct you so that you understand you are getting it wrong, I said unga is important. But I also said before you even ask Parliament for intervention, let us look for these crooks who are hiding the maize flour, the unga, and the sugar. At some point, there was no maize flour in the shop. Hakuna unga. I looked 10 supermarkets, like you are like ugali. And then all of a sudden it came. It came with 200, 180. Then now it's like 140. That tells you something is cooking somewhere.
Ugali.
But the point I was trying to make all this just quickly, look here, it is important. But I was cautioning NASA that if you rely on corruption and the unga alone, the president can do something to render that an issue.
Manyora, you are a professor. You should know how to make your points quickly.
I've made my point quickly.
Yeah. The issue is that you cannot appropriate what you do not have. You cannot even tax poverty. And so the president and Jubilee can go to Parliament. They can say, let us set aside a special budget. That budget will have to eat into what does not exist. That means that you have to shoot up something else. And so this problem becomes circuitous. You're not going to solve it. And I think it is wrong for Mwalimu Manyora to suggest that business people who hold on to whatever little they have strategically, waiting for the laws of supply and demand to behave the way they must behave.
We can't allow them to do that.
Crooks. They are not crooks. That is how free, open, common, competitive markets behave. But we are forgetting that this drought has happened in the post-harvest season. It is not correct to try to cheat the people that there was drought. And if there was drought here, we have seen people are also crossing the border into Uganda to try and buy maize and to try and buy flour. How is it that these things can be found across in Uganda and they are not here? Do we remember that last year during the farming season we had a problem that there were farmers who lost a whole hundreds of hectares of maize crop because of bad seed? Do you remember
I think allow me just to react to this.
Very briefly.
Let me react to this. This drought has affected a wide range of foods. Just walk around here near Nyahururu, where if you went there, you'd find carrots, you'd find potatoes. Now, they are not there. Please allow me, please. Allow me to finish. Please allow me. So, the net effect is that it has affected the food chain for everybody. So that those who are eating carrots and potatoes now also miss their food.
Okay,
this is wide.
I want to move to another point very quickly. Now, this is one of the issues that NASA has been talking about, and Raila Odinga. We've talked about the president and Jubilee and how they plan to handle the cost of living. NASA says if they win, within the first 90 days, rent must come down in urban areas. Now, from where you see it, is this possible? And could he be targeting low-income earners, and can he really do it? Will it work for them?
Allow me. I think when you hear a presidential candidate talking like that, he's basically saying that when I come to power, I am going to flout the rights to private property. That is number one. Number two, I am going to dictate to people. Those who have two will have to share and give one. Resolving a housing crisis by government, I thought I would hear from a candidate saying, when I come into power, we are going to inject additional number of units. This units, let's say 20,000 housing units, then we are going to put funds so that those private sector can also build this extra, because the rents are high on the basis of supply and demand. So how do you reduce the rents? By supplying more houses. So when you hear a presidential candidate trying to apply what I would call voodoo economics, then you are worried.
I think he has now supported my friend Barack
about supply
and demand and about the right of businessmen to do the way they are. Look here, when you become president of a country, it is your responsibility to ensure the stability in that country. Because if the economy collapses, the country collapses. When history is written, they will say, whether was the president of Kenya when that happened. You know, if you allow, by you are thinking the two of you, food to get, flour to get, unga to get 300 shillings, it is going up there. Maize is already getting, milk is getting 70, sugar is over 200 per kilo. Then you allow the landlords you are talking about to charge what they want. There could be a revolution in the country. There could be chaos. As a president, you can step in. And look here, stepping in, it has happened in many countries. you can give landlords incentives. There are tax incentives. There are ways of doing it. You haven't asked Jaramogi's son how he intends to do it. You are quickly jumping to the conclusion he will force people to bring down rent. No, maybe he has a strategy. What you should be asking NASA is to explain this strategy or bring down the rent. So far, I don't know, but I know it's possible. It doesn't just have to be telling people down.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll do economics. I want Manyora to start. Muluka to start on this last question.
Good.
We've heard both sides. Of course, first of all, IBC says it's targeting 19 million voters ultimately when you go to the 2017 general election, that is in August. Jubilee has been saying they will win by 70+1. Yes. They rolled out the membership cards and they talk about 8 million members already. Lately, since Friday, we've been seeing CORD with placards, NASA rather, talking about 10 million strong. They're targeting 10 million voters. So we've already seen now Jubilee leaders yesterday dismissing that and saying this is NASA trying to set the stage to reject the outcome of the 2017 election. I don't know how you weigh on that.
Well, first of all, I think it is important that the elections must be done in a credible manner. Mm-hmm. They must not only be free and fair, they must also be seen to be free and fair. And that perception is going to be extremely important. When you look at the figures, and one wants to assume that the previous strongholds remain intact. Mm-hmm. And if the previous strongholds remain intact, and people vote as usual along tribal lines, then you are seeing that as of now, Jubilee would be having a slight edge over NASA. And therefore it becomes a question of one, whether NASA is going to be able to galvanize the rest of the so-called swing areas. And when we talk about strongholds, for Jubilee we are talking about central and parts of Rift Valley. When we talk about NASA, we would be talking about western, Luo Nyanza, and maybe Ukambani. Okay? So the rest of the country, starting from Nairobi, where we are seated today and speaking, becomes part of the swing zone. We are talking about Kisii, we are talking about Maasai, we are talking about the Pokot, Turkana, and such other areas. Are they able to galvanize? And I think that that starts making the competition extremely tight. I don't think that it is possible that anyone can get 70%. It's going to be very narrow, and it's going to depend on how people have strategized, and particularly that thing which we call get out and vote.
Okay.
I think for us, Jubilee, all the 19 registered voters are ours. And we are going to look for each person.
Get serious.
So that,
get serious.
Please allow me to finish.
Just
as a lawyer, yes, we allow
already serious.
Please allow me.
We know that there's a bit of lying in lawyering.
Please.
But get serious.
Please. 19 million are ours for the taking. You understand? And we will then try to reach. We are not going to exclude the way NASA has excluded and said 9 million, those ones we have left. As every vote, including Manyara here, are ours, and we will plead with you and beg you and go around and do everything so that we get every vote. On that basis, we are saying when victory comes, it is 70+%.
So you are not serious.
We are not excluding anybody. Some other team, please allow me to
You
finish.
can't be taken seriously, eh?
That is how we did it last time, and it was round one.
A serious basis for this discussion.
In 2013, we went for everybody. And when the others were balkanizing the country, this is ours, this is not. Jubilee team went for everybody.
But
by the time the rest woke up, we had taken power.
How come you've been going to places telling people, the last time you did not vote for us, this time at
that's why we are going for them. That is why we are going for them. You have seen the president, the deputy president, going everywhere. Kisii, Luyaland, it is listed as people who are going in some corners where they hold rallies, but they don't go to other places.
You say.
President was in Kisumu.
These people,
Raila has not gone to Kiambu.
Are living in a make-believe world.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, because 70%, you only need to go back to 2002, Hussein. With all that NAC euphoria, rainbow euphoria, Kibaki managed about 62%. Look, with that euphoria, fighting against Kanu and Uhuru, the rookie as he was called. So, the 70%, the 10 million is the same. All I'm saying is this, and all I know to be true, save for a miracle, nobody can win this election with more than 51%.
Absolutely.
That is the position. But even for that to happen, Jubilee will have to take care of what is happening in the North Rift, where there are operations, they are making enemies. They'll have to go to Nyambene, the other parts of Meru, Nyambene, Tigania, those areas of Nyambene and Tharaka-Nithi. They will have to go to Bomet and sort out the Isaac Ruto mess. NASA would have to go and say Busia. They will have looked for another place. They would not. They should not ignore what's happening in Kilifi with Mngalo. This is what will give them 51%, my friend, not 70. Nobody's going to get 70. But even that 51, my friend, is going to come through a lot of sweat, a lot of organization, which,
don't fear.
If anybody asks
don't
me,
be afraid.
if anybody asks for my honest opinion,
70% plus one.
Anybody asks for my honest opinion, my honest opinion will be, so far I'm not seeing any side.
Let me finish.
We are
campaigning.
If somebody asks for my honest opinion, I've not seen seriousness from any side.
Okay, and we'll leave it
To
at
get
that.
that 51%,
That is serious.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that, gentlemen. Haman Manyora, Barack Muluka, and Ambrose Sweda, political analyst tonight. Thank you so much for making time for us. Keep talking to us. The hashtag is GamePresident17 on Twitter. You can also text us on 22422. We're back after this break.